Okay, boys, the Houston Texans and the 2025 NFL Draft is done. All 7 rounds have been completed, and today I'm going to go over every single pick that the Houston Texans made and giving them a grade. Obviously, like a letter grade, so A is good and D, F is obviously very bad. So let's just get straight into it. Round 2, pick 34, the Texans picked Jaden Higgins. Now, before I give my actual grade, my letter grade for this pick, there is a note to be made that the Texans did trade out from 25 to 34. So they traded out of the first round with the Giants to move up. They ended up getting, obviously, the 34 pick. They got another third-round pick in this draft, and then I think a third or a second next year, something like that. Overall, I felt like it was pretty good. The players that I wanted the Texans to really get at that time, I believe, were gone already. So it made sense for me, and apparently it made sense for the Texans. So I feel like that was pretty good. I'm not going to give a letter grade on the trades they made, but I thought that's just something to note because the Texans did have the 25th pick. But as far as Jaden Higgins goes, he wasn't on my radar as much as some other wide receivers were. I did brief research on all of these picks after every pick has been selected. I've been working, obviously, so I haven't had that much time to do a deep analysis. But what I can see from Jaden Higgins is what a lot of people are saying. He's very similar to Nico Collins, a big wide receiver who can make a good catch, has great hands, can separate, can stretch you down the field, and can make a play over the top. Very reminiscent of Nico Collins. If it takes him a little while to adjust and to develop like Nico Collins did, that would be fine. If we got a Nico Collins 2.0 somewhere down in the future, I would be extremely happy. Was he my favorite wide receiver at this point? Luther Burden was still on the board. A lot of teams passed on him for off the field matters that apparently there's some questions about his character, having that like wide receiver, traditional diva mindset. I would have probably gone with Luther Burden if I was the Texans at 34. But I can't be mad at Jaden Higgins. He seems like a really solid pick. I would give it a B to a B minus. I would probably actually give it a B minus for this reason. I felt like Texans should have gone offensive line first. They ended up not doing that. Their next pick was, but I feel like they should have put more into the offensive line personally. So the second pick the Texans had was pick 48, and that was Ariante Irsay, the offensive lineman from Minnesota. He played tackle there. I believe he played right tackle 1 year, and then he played 3 years left tackle at Minnesota. He's a very solid pick. He was on my radar. Like I said, I wanted the Texans to get a lineman earlier, but guys like Tyler Booker, Josh Connolly, Josh Simmons, Donovan Jackson, they went a lot earlier than I was hoping for. So Irsay was kind of in that next level of lineman that I liked, and I think he'll be really good. Will he start next year? I'm not sure. But the position battle between Titus, Blake, Irsay, there's a couple more guys that I can't think off the top of my head, but Cam Robinson, and then all the guys in the middle like Drew Scruggs, Jared Patterson. It will be interesting to see who comes out on top, and hopefully that competition can ignite that offensive line room and give CJ much more and much deserved protection next year, because that is the biggest concern for this Texans team going into next year. But like I said, I like this pick. I would give it a B+. I think purely off the fact that they should have drafted O-line earlier. With where they were picking from, Irsay was about a pretty good pick you could get at that point. Very happy with it. Their third pick was pick 79. They took Higgins' teammate in Jalen Noel. This I'm going to give an A because Jalen Noel is really good. I really like him a lot. He's a little undersized, but he reminds me not exactly of Tank Dell, but as someone who can play in the slot, who is small, who can separate, and who can make a really good catch. I feel like now with this wide receiver room we have, adding Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, who are teammates, which is kind of cool. Then you already have Nico Collins. You have Kirk, you have John Mechie, you have Hutchinson, you have Berrios. It is a stacked wide receiver room, and there will be competition there. And unfortunately, one of those guys is not going to make it. I'm not sure who it's going to be. I would assume the two Iowa State wide receivers who we just drafted are going to be on the roster somehow. To me, it's between Mechie, Hutchinson, and Berrios to see who's going to get cut, in my opinion, because there's really no need for more than 6 wide receivers on a roster, especially when we also have Tank Dell, probably not for most of next year and probably realistically not for all of next year, but we will get him back hopefully sometime in the future, and he'll be fine. But I really like this pick. I think Jalen Noel was a really good value pick at round 3, and that's around the same time we picked up Tank Dell in the draft a couple years ago. So very interesting to see if he can live up to close to Tank Dell's expectations. If he does, that would be really good. The next pick we had was in round 3. It was pick 97, and this is Jalen Smith, cornerback from USC. Kalen Bullock's former teammate. I'm honestly confused of why the Texans went cornerback here. I thought maybe we would go secondary help just for maybe depth and maybe for the future with Jimmy Ward getting older. But we just locked in Jalen Petrie. We got Derek Stingley. We got Kamari Lassiter. We got Kalen Bullock. I really didn't need the Texans to have their last top 100 pick spent on a cornerback. Because of that, I'm going to give it a D. I don't want to do it to my own team, but what I've seen of him, he seems like a pretty good guy. He should be a pretty decent nickel defender, but I feel like he's going to be a nickel defender. So that's another thing is like, why are you getting someone with a top 100 pick who is limited to that, where we already have Jalen Petrie? So it didn't make much sense to me. That was probably my least favorite pick of this draft. The next pick the Texans had was Woody Marks from USC. I know people are concerned about his 40-yard dash time. I like his shiftiness. I watched a couple USC games this past season, and I did like Woody Marks. I thought he was really good at very shifty running back. And he's not necessarily the fastest guy, but he is quick. He can make a man miss. And so I thought it was good to get another guy in there to battle with Dameon Pierce for that running back 2 spot. Assuming Agunbowale is going to be the third guy who's going to play special teams, who's going to be that very important emergency kicker if we ever need one. So that's kind of good. I would give it a B- to a C+. There were some better running backs, I think, available at that point, but again, I'm not mad at it at all. This is another pick that I didn't like. It's Jalen Reed, the safety from Penn State. And again, it's not a knock on what I've seen of him. From what I saw of him, to be completely honest, he seemed like a decent pick. I mean, who knows? With all these guys, like in round 6, round 7, you're really kind of just taking a shot at the dark in a lot of these instances. So if he could ever just be a serviceable backup, that would be good. But it's like, why are we going to a DB again? I don't know why we need secondary help. I don't feel like we need secondary help. And it just didn't make sense to me. I feel like we could have double dipped on the O-line. I wanted 3 of our first 4 picks to be O-line. I know that's kind of extreme, but that's what I wanted. We didn't even get 2. So this is another bad pick just because on the pure fact that we have DBs and we just drafted one in the top 100 with Jalen Smith. So I'm going to give it another D. I did not like it for me personally. I just don't think we need secondary help. Yeah, maybe it'll make it stronger, but it's like the defensive side was really not the priority for me. It was mainly wide receiver, O-line room, and then you can fill the needs of where you can put some competition like running back, like defensive line. But, hopefully Nick Sir knows what he's doing, and since he's been here, he's made pretty good decisions, so we'll see how it goes. The last 2 picks, again, round 6, round 7 picks are really just spin a wheel and you get lucky. But this one, I know, made a lot of Texan fans scratch their head. We got Graham Mertz, the quarterback from Florida. I watched 2 Florida games, I think, last year. Was not spectacular. Was not that impressed with Graham Mertz. He's a big dude, 6'3", I believe, big quarterback. Are we planning on trading away Davis Mills, or is he just the next backup QB after Davis Mills' contract expires this year? I don't know. Again, it feels like a pick where it's like, why didn't we take another offensive line? Man, we had 2 more picks from this point. We could have taken another offensive lineman, but we went Graham Mertz. I know a lot of people were mad, especially because Quinn Ewers, I believe, was still available at this pick, 197, and the Texans didn't take a shot at it. I personally am like, no, because one, C.J. Stroud is the dude, and Quinn Ewers, I really don't think he's going to be anything in the NFL. Maybe under the right leadership. I'm not even sure where he got drafted, but I think he got drafted by the Dolphins, honestly. So we'll see how Quinn Ewers does. Obviously, I wish any player, any draft prospect the best for themselves, but it's like, I don't think he'll be anything that special. So that didn't irk me that much. For this pick, I'm going to give a C- just because it doesn't really seem necessary. And again, it's just the fact that we only spent 1 pick on offensive line. And we really needed more help there. I really wanted more competition at that offensive line position, or across the offensive line, excuse me. So that's that. And then our last pick, round 7, pick 256, was Luke Lakey, tight end from Iowa. I'm not mad at this pick. Again, at this point, it's like we really don't need that much. We don't have that many needs. Obviously, offensive line was something I was hoping the Texans would go at. But they obviously didn't address it as much as I would have liked, and I'm guessing as a lot of people would have liked. From what I've seen, Luke Lakey, I'm not even sure that's how you say his last name, tight end from Iowa, he seems like a decent tight end. If he can be a serviceable backup, again, that would be pretty good. And I really feel like Dalton Schultz, I don't know if he has a future here with the Texans. I know he's going to be our tight end next year probably, unless something happens. But I really like Brevin Jordan. If he can stay healthy, that would be amazing. And so we'll see how Luke Lakey shapes out. If he can be somewhat like another Kate Stover or something like that, that'd be pretty cool. But again, we have Kate Stover. The more I'm talking about it, the more I realize like we have tight ends. So I don't know. That pick I'll give a C+, just because why not? And honestly, just looking at the list, I have missed a pick. Before that pick of Luke Lakey, we did draft Keontae Hamilton, the defensive tackle from Rutgers. He looks pretty good. He feels like a pretty good pick at 224. I'm glad they addressed the defensive line just to get one other guy in there. Like I said, you're spinning a wheel when you're picking round 6, round 7. So I'm going to give that a B-. It seems all right. But I'm glad the Texans addressed it anyway. So overall, I think Texans did okay. If I had to give an overall grade, I would give it like a B. It was a good draft. There's some good players that they got. I'm glad they did draft Iriante Irise. Like I said, I did like him a lot. I feel like he has a high ceiling, and so hopefully he can reach that ceiling. But we'll see. Let me know how you think the Texans did drafting. What was their best pick? What was their worst pick? What would you give a letter grade on the Texans' overall draft picks? Or if you want to give each individual draft pick in letter grade, let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you disagree with, agree with.